recap. Okay, I'm going to do a quick recap on parabolas, what we have done so far. So, I'm literally just going to go through the notes that we've made so far. Just make sure that you are touching base, and then we carry on with completing the square, which we started with, but we didn't really do a lot of examples on those. So I want to spend some time, finish off with that today. Remember, when we are working with completing the square, we are alternating between these two forms, and both of them are forms that we can write the parabola in. The one is called the standard form, die standaard vorm, is die ax kwadraat plus bx plus c, en dan die draaipunt vorm is die een waaruit jy die draaipunt van die parabool kan aflees. So if you have it in the turning point form, you have to change the sign of the x of P to get the X value of the turning point, and Q gives you the Y value of the turning point. And when we're busy with completing the square, we are taking it from the standard form into the turning point form, which we'll get to again in a few minutes. Then we also have the intercept form, which we'll spend more time on when we move on to finding the formula of the parabola. So we use those when I give you the graph and you have to find the formula. Okay, so more on that later. Dan het ons gepraat oor die definisie en die waardeversameling. Dis goed wat julle in graad 10 al gedoen het. Definisieversameling beskryf x-waardes, waardeversameling beskryf y-waardes, and I gave you them for the parabola. And then the parabola is one of two graphs that we are doing that also has an axis of symmetry, which you get at the x value of the turning point. So as jy die draaipunt se koördinaat het, is sy as van symmetrie altyd gelyk aan x is gelyk aan daai x waarde van die draaipunt. Okay. It's all coming back to me. Got it? Good. Now, we started drawing the parabola when they give us the standard form. Now remember, when you're drawing the parabola, you always have to give the y-intercept, which is easy. You can read it off from the standard form. The x-intercepts, for which we set y equal to 0. You have to give the turning point, for which we did more than one method, which I'll talk about now. And you have to know the shape. That's actually where you start. So vir die vorm sê jy mos, A groter as 0, happy face. A kleiner as 0, sad face. Julle almal se A's is kleiner as 0, sien ek. Julle alright? Tough day so far. Toe maar is alright. Julle is nou by julle gunsteling van. Okay. Goed. So die y-afsnit lees jy af van die grafiek, van die formule af. Daar is daai minus 6, geef jou die y-afsnit. En vir die x-afsnit stel ons y gelyk aan 0. Ons factoriseer minus 1 en 6. And then we said there's two different ways that we've done so far to get the turning point. The one, which I recommend, is using this. But that's not a formula that will be given. So you have to know, to get the x value of the turning point, you say x is equal to negative b over 2a. En dan om die y-waarde te kry, gaan stel jy dit terug in die oorspronklike vergelyking. Altyd terug in die oorspronklike vergelyking. Original. Okay. Goed. En toe het ons 'n parabool geteken. Toe het ons nog 'n parabool geteken. Toe het julle nog parabole geteken vir huiswerk. Nog parabole geteken. En nog. And then we did a little segue of the intercepts between two graphs. Wat ons gesê het, die snypunt van twee grafieke is die punt waar hulle gelyk is aan mekaar. But we'll do more of these later. Okay? So, maar wat belangrik is wat julle moet sien is die plek waar twee grafieke mekaar sny. If they intercept one another, it means that at that point, they are equal to one another. So to find those points, you just set the two graphs equal to one another and you solve for x and for y. And that gives you the coordinates. Okay, maar ons gaan weer later in hom inkom. And then we move on to completing the square. Everyone here? Everyone caught up? En ek dink ons het letterlik net hierdie een gedoen, né? I think we only did the one example of that. So I'm going to do a few more examples today and then I'm going to give you to exercise. Lekker. Okay. Kom ons gaan net gou vinnig weer deur hierdie voorbeeld wat ek gedoen het daar. Remember, when we are completing the square, we are taking it from the standard form into the turning point form. Why would we want to do that? Because if it's in the turning point form, you have the turning point. Okay, now, very important. If they don't specify that you have to use completing the squares, you don't have to do it. Because remember, we have that other method for finding the turning point. You guys remember? Which is more foolproof than completing the squares. Because completing the squares has so many steps where you can make a mistake. So, remember, you have to know how to complete the squares. But, and we use it again in grade 12, where you have to use it. But when you are writing a test on graphs, and they ask you, draw the parabola. Hulle sê nie, bepaal die waarde van die draaipunt deur kwadraatsvoltooiing te gebruik nie. They don't specify which method you have to use. They just say, draw the parabola, show all the intercepts, show the turning point. You don't have to do completing the squares. In fact, I would advise you to do the other method. Okay. Happiness. But we still need to do it. So, what we do when we are completing the squares is we say we use this little maatjie. B over 2 squared. And remember I told you guys to keep that B over 2 in brackets because we use it again later. So you say B op 2 kwadraat. Wat is B? B is die getal. Wat het gebeur? Hier agter my. B is die getal wat voor x tot die mag 1 staan. It's the number with his sign standing in front of x to the power of 1. All of you with me? Okay. Goed. So as ons dit het, gaan ons sê daai minus 6, gaan ek sê minus 6 op 2, which is negative 3. And keep that there because I'm going to show you why now. But do you guys agree that negative 3 when I square it is equal to 9? Now remember, we're not allowed to change the value of the equation. So ons gaan vir hom 9 gee en dan gaan ons 9 weer wegvat. I give you a cupcake, I take the cupcake. Okay? Plus 9, minus 9. And that's this part here. And the reason why we are doing this is we're not changing the value, we are just rewriting it in a different way. So daai eerste stukkie wat ek in oranje geonderstreep het, kan ons dan skryf as die hakie x minus 3 kwadraat. And then this part in blue simplifies to negative 1. Gou weer terug segue hiernatoe. Whatever is written in your bracket here, before you squared it, will be what is written in your bracket there. And that's why it's important to keep it. It helps. You guys will see today we're going to do when this is a fraction. So let's say that's negative 5 over 3. So then it becomes very complicated to factorize it. Maar dan is het lekker as jy daai hakie het, dan weet jy klaar wat in jou hakie gaan wees. Okay. Almal van julle reg? Sort of, kind of. Let's do one. Okay. The first thing we do is this. B over 2 squared. What is B? Negative 2. Which simplifies to negative 1. Which I'm going to keep there because I'm going to use it later. But do you guys agree this is equal to 1? No? En jy gaan hier gaan insqueeze. So wat ons daar gaan doen is ons gaan sê x kwadraat minus 2x plus 1 minus 1 plus 5. That's the little bit that I added. Plus 1 minus 1. Jy moet hom bytel en hom weer aftrek. Okay. The reason why we did this is this can now be written as a bracket squared. And then this part, I just simplify. Okay, hierdie volgende stuk wat ek nou gaan doen, hoef julle nie te doen nie. I just want to show you guys, I didn't change the parabola. So let's say I gave it to you in this form and I asked you for the standard form. Do you guys agree that this means x minus 1 times x minus 1? No? Better? So we have x squared minus x plus 1 plus 4. X squared minus 2x plus 5. Do you guys see? I didn't change the value. It's precies dieselfde. I just rewrote it in another way. Why? Because if I give it to you in this form, what's the turning point of this parabola? Turning point is 1 and 4. No? It's the same parabola. It's just written in another form. Okay. Good, let's go. Okay, now, make a note. Factorize so that a is equal to 1. Die vorige twee wat ek gedoen het was a gelyk aan 1. So that was nice and easy. But now I have to factorize first. I'm going to do this as a mostly, then maybe you can see better. Okay. And this. I just took out a minus. Okay, and now for this part, we're going to do exactly as we did it previously. Okay, so I almost want to say forget about the brackets and the negative 1. You just bring them along for the ride from here on out. Almal by? Okay, so now you're just looking at the thing that I highlighted orange. What is the value of b there? Okay, so just bringing it along. Ek bring hom net saam. That part is completing the squares. Okay? Plus 9, minus 9. Wat sal die hakie wees vir daai 3 terme? If I factorize those 3 terms, what will the bracket be? Look there. X minus 3 squared. That thing is the same. Okay. Ek gebruik net dan my blok hakies, dat die hakies nie de mekaar raak nie. En dan is minus 9 plus 4 gelyk aan minus 5. Okay. And now I'm only going to worry about that negative on the outside again. But I'm not going to multiply it with everything. I'm going to multiply it with the bracket and with the negative 5. So it becomes positive 5. Sien jy like maal hom net so en so. Jy gaan nou nie gaan in jou hakkie weer gaan uitmaal nie because that defeats the purpose. You want that bracket squared there. So you're not going to multiply it into the bracket or whatever. Is jy wakker? Is jy by? Nee, juffrou, jou liege.